Hello and welcome back to the Franchise Growth Pod. This is Belle, lead on all things marketing here at AC Inc. And I am back today with Brecon, one of our amazing franchise growth advisors. How's it going, Brecon?
Really good, Belle. Thanks so much for having me.
Woo! Okay, I was actually saying earlier today, my energy on calls today have been off the chart. So I apologize if I seem like I've had like 1,000 cups of coffee. I promise I haven't. I'm just feeling good. It's just
Just
a
a few hundred. It's all
yeah.
good.
Yeah, totally. We are going to launch off. We have a lot to talk about today. So we're actually going to dive right into our kind of intro question that we kick off all of our episodes with. This is just designed to kind of get to know all of our guests better, our clients, our team members. And also, if you know me, I'm the queen of random topics at like dinners and stuff. So
I'm
this actually goes
terrified.
really well. What?
I'm terrified of what's coming.
Oh, no. Yours are chill. I kind of try to tailor them a little bit. I don't do anything too crazy. If you had to give up one or the other forever, would you give up music or books? This is hypothetical, so obviously you don't actually have to, but I'm
No,
just curious.
honestly, I would probably have to give up music
Wow. Okay, so you're like definitely reader then. Like that would be number one.
every day.
Wow. Oh, I didn't know this about you, Brecken. That's actually, are you definitely nonfiction or fiction or a mix?
Mostly fiction. I do read quite a bit for work.
Nice. Yeah.
But like at night and on the weekends, I am, you guys know me, I am such an introvert and
Yeah.
full nerd. I am quite happy just to dive into a book with,
That's
the dog at my
awesome.
feet and a glass of scotch. I am happy as can be.
That's so great. And I didn't really know that about you. So that's actually super cool. I am also a huge reader. In fact, I kind of am known for being like a really incredibly fast reader. So and getting a Kindle really helped with that too. I don't know if are you
Nice.
like a tangible book person?
I've got both.
Oh,
Both.
nice. Okay, sweet. Yeah, the Kindle is like a game or whatever type of e-reader is a game changer for travel, I find.
It's so nice. And
Yeah.
honestly, it's because I read and I don't want to keep Jen up, not having to have the light on and I can have the night
Yeah.
version. It's so much easier so that my wife doesn't have to stay awake while I read my book.
Yes, I have the exact same thing. I will read, and I'm also a night owl. Like I naturally will stay up a little bit later, and Josh is an early morning guy, so he will be heading to bed much earlier than I. So yeah, it definitely has changed the game there in terms of when the lamp has to be on or not.
It is
Well, that's really cool. I didn't know we had that in common. I will have to we'll have to have a different conversation about books in general later. But
definitely. I need a
uh,
good book right now.
yeah. Okay, so we are going to dive into today's topic. As I said, we have so much awesome stuff to get into. So Brecken, you work with franchisees and franchisors. So you work kind of with home office teams to help with implementing franchisee coaching or field coaching, as the AC team calls it. But then you also do a lot of franchisee coaching. So kind of that fractional side with group coaching and one-on-one. And then you've also been a franchisee. So just for background on anyone who hasn't heard Brecken on the podcast before, you're coming at this with a lot of expertise. Um, Sorry, I'm looking at my notes. My energy is
Okay.
so crazy. Um, so that's just kind of background, obviously, because what I'm going to be asking you today is about not just the training of franchisees, because
Mhm.
that's obviously when you come into a system, especially as more of a fractional coach, or when you're helping train a coach to go into a system and do this type of coaching. A lot of times, leadership and even coaches, sometimes like newer field coaches, will just assume, we hop in and we really want to get into like skill training, development, helping with like financial understanding and KPIs and SWOT analysis and all these awesome like skills. But there's this whole thing we kind of need to do first. And I want to ask you about a couple of the kind of the key points of what we do before we dive into the actual training of Z's. Do you find that that's kind of the typical expectation though, is when you're coming in, like the training is really the focus?
Yeah, they're all expecting like you just to go, okay, this is how we're gonna do, this is what a scorecard is, or these are
Yeah.
your this let's look at your metrics. But of course, it all starts with mindset. It
Mm,
really is about where their head is at and what they're able to accomplish through that. Because as Angela always says, mindset is everything, and I agree
yeah.
with her 100%. But establishing a growth mindset is imperative because
Yeah.
without that, there may be all this subconscious stuff that is getting in the way of potential progress. And so you can teach them all about how to grow, but it doesn't matter if they don't want to grow or they don't understand
Yeah.
why they want to grow.
Yeah, and maybe clarify too, because Growth mindset is different. I feel like a lot of times when people talk about mindset in business, they're talking about, being able to overcome challenges and being able to pivot kind of quickly and keeping a positive, sense of your vision and stuff. So that's like, I don't know, positive, healthy, successful business mindset kind of feels more like that area. But you're talking actually more about the belief and the buy-in that growth, like growing your business and making your business, and not even necessarily growing like crazy huge amount, but making your business better. That's a mindset in itself. And I think sometimes that can get lost. Like that was something I really learned when I heard you guys talking about the coaching aspect of franchisees. Is I didn't realize that a lot of owners who have come into a system that maybe didn't have as much support initially, I didn't realize that that was such a challenge of actually helping a franchise owner understand that they can grow and that that's exciting and that that's going to help them with their goals. Like that, I didn't realize how big like a first step that was when I first joined.
Well, and there's a couple of reasons for that, Belle. It is honestly, no one really likes to talk about it, but a lot of franchisees are scared of growing.
Oh,
Like
interesting.
there's a fear of growth because what they think is, I'm already working my brains out,
Yeah.
and growing is going to mean I got to work more and I
Mm.
got to work harder. So they associate growth with is pain. and and because it's never even occurred to them that actually I can get out of working in the day-to-day operations and we can get to work and growing, working on the business. And they have no idea how to go from A to B. And
Yeah.
so establishing first that they would like to be working on the business as opposed to in it, and what that can look like and how that can be beneficial is kind of a key first step.
Mm,
Um, and even understanding like growing the business, like it, you can change your lifestyle,
mm,
your financial future, your family's financial future. And it doesn't mean you now have to work 80 hours a week.
yeah.
You actually, if you're working on the business, you're generally working less than when you are working in it.
Mm.
It's just more brain power as opposed to physical power.
Yeah, it's not like you're making like I totally agree. And being a business owner, like I have experience in that as well. And it can feel like you're climbing a mountain every single day, like this just endless mountain. So to think that growing a business doesn't mean that mountain's going to get bigger, doesn't mean we now all of a sudden have a taller mountain to climb. It actually means we're like, I don't know if this is some bad metaphor, but like bringing in other people to help us on this journey of climbing this mountain and so we're going to have, specialty people come in and help with certain aspects that they can help with, and we're going to come up with systems that kind of help us scale it faster and all those types of things. It's not making the task bigger and just keeping you in the same spot. If that makes sense.
No, and again, like even that part, like overcoming the thoughts of, oh my gosh, I cannot afford to hire somebody new. That's going to cost me $70,000 or whatever
Yeah.
number. But what they don't realize is, okay, it costs me this much a month. Okay, if we look at the numbers, I'm going to spend this much on a salary for somebody, but now they're able to handle all these tasks for me. Can I now increase revenue by working on the business or establishing new relationships or going after new contracts or
Yeah.
improving our marketing campaign? Like, there's all these other things that, as the owner, you are now freed up to do.
Yeah.
And you just got to figure out, am I able to generate the revenue to cover that salary? And if so, how does that look like? And what's the strategy to do that?
Yeah.
And that's where, so again, part of it is they've already shut it down in their mind before you even started. Well, I don't want to grow because I got to pay somebody $70,000 a year to do that.
Or
Well,
multiple people. That's where a
yeah.
lot of people I think can get hung up too, is like,
Oh,
oh,
and it's terrifying for a
yeah, oh,
small business owner. It is really scary. I
yeah,
remember the first time I had to hire a full-time manager and GM, and I was like, what am I doing? But my
yeah,
coach at the time was, think about it. You're going to pay them X dollars. Think of all the extra time you're going to have. Are you going to be able to generate more revenue? I was like, oh yeah, okay, I can start seeing it. And again, and even risk management, my coach was great. She outlined for me that if this doesn't work in 6 months, what have you lost? Oh, it's not 75,000. It's actually half of that.
yeah,
And I've probably still generated a ton of revenue and learned all kinds of things. And maybe I had the wrong person, but it's not a waste. It is still a great investment. And so just she was able to get my mindset in the right spot so that when the time came, I was all in and ready to go.
yeah. Okay, so I'm hearing a couple really key things. So we kind of said right at the beginning, obviously, like that first step isn't just to go in and start showcasing scorecards and setting big goals and doing all the analysis and all
Let's
of
look at KPIs today, day 1 through day 27.
Yeah. That, and it is tempting because that stuff is, I think, what feels like moves the needle the most is like, awesome, now we have a KPI scorecard where we're actually seeing how far we're moving every week and every month, and that's awesome. We never had that before, and this is really feeling really tangible. But whereas, saying we're going to spend the first month or the first few weeks or whatever working on getting some mindset straight and kind of figuring out like how can we make it so that you as an owner, as a business owner, can be working on building the business and making the business better versus helping clients or taking calls or answering emails like all day or whatever the in the business looks like in that moment. Imagine if you weren't doing that and instead you were helping the business become better. So having that first like bit as a coach, working on that, I think sometimes can feel less tangible than something like a scorecard or a training on a specific skill or whatever that looks like. But yeah, so going back to what you said about the working on the business and kind of helping people understand what that looks like, what do you often find is like a key part of that is, and you mentioned the making sure, not seeing growth as a bad thing. That's one key part. But do you find that people kind of know that they should be working on the business? Like as a franchisee, if you've been, working in the business, doing day-to-day things, helping with operations, literally managing and all that kind of stuff, do people kind of understand that they want to be out of that, or do some people kind of like being in it, so then that's a tricky thing to get out of? Like, where is that hurdle in the mindset space?
Well, yeah. I mean, one of the things we're always trying to encourage eventually is to get our franchisee out and growing their local market.
Yeah.
Right? They got to get out there and building relationships. And for most franchise systems, local community guerrilla marketing is it's one of the antes to get in the game. You
Yeah,
have
yeah.
to be doing it, but so many people want to stay in the safe place of their office behind the desk. And
Mhm.
again, so they see that I've got to do payroll and I have to do scheduling. No one else can do this, and they don't want to train someone else. So
Mhm.
again, part of it is understanding that the reason they're not going out in the community is because they're scared and they don't understand how to do that. They don't have necessarily the skill set to do it. They don't understand how to do it, and so they keep in their heads. They just keep going back to doing what they know how to do because that's
Yeah.
safe, more comfortable. And again, so understanding all those things, I can teach some KPIs and scorecards and all this stuff, but really, the best use of most franchisees owners is building your team and then getting out in the community.
Yeah.
Get out there, build relationships, and get known. You have to be known as everything about your franchise system. You are that person in your community. So again,
Mm.
mine was healthcare, my last business. You needed anything to help your mom and dad. People just knew you called Brecon.
Yeah.
I knew everybody in the senior community.
Mhm.
And it was just through being out there. And the other thing for most franchisees, it's really scary, is that you usually don't get immediate ROI on it.
Yeah.
And it is an investment of time. And I usually say it takes 6 to 18 months.
Mhm.
And so most franchisees try it for 2 or 3 weeks. They go to 2 or 3 networking events or community events. They don't get immediate ROI. And they're like, oh, I tried that, it didn't work. I'm going back to my desk and doing payroll and scheduling.
Yeah.
But really, what they've done is they've just shot themselves in the foot. And so, again, rather than teach them KPIs, I want to teach them how to get out there and market and those kinds of things first, so that
Mhm.
they can build the foundation of their business in the community. We'll get into skills. We can teach you numbers, but we got to get you out there. It
But it's
is
getting,
imperative.
but as you said, it like teaching a skill or helping someone build a template or a plan or a roadmap and setting goals and all of that and the action steps. All of that is still obviously a huge part of the field coaching process,
Huge, huge part.
obviously.
I'm not, yeah, I don't want to take away from that.
Totally, totally. But I hear you that we can do that all day. You could do that with anyone and say, for any business, here's where, okay, perfect. We're gonna set this up. We're gonna measure these numbers. Here's your goals. Like that is not the tough, like the really, really overcoming the hurdles part, because those are skills. Like those are things, you can, a lot of us could learn how to change a tire, and many of us do already know, and all that kind of things. But skills are kind of different because it's not about the belief, right, and the mindset around it and the buy-in and the want to do it and all those things. So yeah, and I actually really liked what you said too about the franchisee's role, and how that is actually a big part of the mindset, as well as understanding as a franchisee what is your role within the business, right? Because you are obviously not, I mean, there are some franchises out there that operate on very like minimal staff, but most times the franchisee has a specific role within their business that works the best, right? And as you said, growing their local market is really, really if they are not doing that, like someone needs to be, that's a big, big role. But understanding kind of as a franchisee, like what can I do that's going to make the biggest impact on my business? And that's a big part of that mindset piece as well. Um, do you find that as a franchisee, like again, I know you work with lots of different franchisees who have lots of different types of feelings about getting out in the market, but do you find that once people kind of understand what their role is and how they can make the biggest impact, and then tying it back to like what they care about, like, if they want to retire one day or pass it on to their kids, or like, do you find that when all those points connect, does it feel easier? Or I mean, there still might be challenges, but does it feel easier for franchisees to get out in their market when they have more of those steps and they understand more of how that connects?
I would say that it most of the time it does, Bill.
Most of the time. Yeah, yeah.
Most of the time, yeah, they're able to understand, okay, this is why I'm doing it. This is why
Mhm.
it's important.
Yeah.
And my coach has helped, like we've done role plays, they've
Yeah.
guided me through how to do these things. I've practiced.
Yeah.
I got my elevator pitch down perfect now.
Yeah.
And
Feeling more
like
confident.
yes. And the
Yeah.
first time you go, it is terrifying. It is.
Totally.
But just like doing push-ups, you get
Yeah.
better at it the more you do them. But then there are some franchisees who are just never going to be great out in the community.
Mm.
It does happen.
Yeah.
So helping them identify as well as a coach, I am not the right front man,
Mhm.
front person, I should say, for my brand and my
Yeah.
community. Who is? Is
Mm.
somebody on my team, or do I need to find somebody to do that?
Yeah.
Because if they are not going to go out and they're not going to be fully committed and they're not going to do it regularly, doing it poorly in some ways is worse than doing it not doing it at all. It's a lot
Yeah.
like social media that way
Yeah.
and all your marketing stuff that you teach, Bell. But you need someone out there who represents you consistently, professionally,
Mhm.
and believes in the brand
Yeah.
and is passionate about what you guys do and really wants to help people with their services and products. And so if that's not the franchisee, again, as the coach, then we have to help them identify that
Mm.
and help them identify who that is and get them the right training so they can go out. And sometimes that is a team member. Sometimes it's someone we got to go find first.
Mhm.
And it's often a client, an existing client who loves what we do,
Oh,
um,
interesting. Yeah, yeah.
right? Because they already know about us and they know our systems and what we're about. And they're great at natural advocates.
Mhm.
But yes, most of the time it does help when it's the franchisee who is out there
Yeah.
because it's their company and it looks so good when you say, and I'm the owner, I believe in it. I mean,
Totally.
that was my role for years, but I have worked with a lot of franchises, and there are a percentage where it's, you know what, I'm going to set out my head of sales or my operations manager or my GM. They're just better at that stuff than I am, and I just will never get comfortable doing that, and that's okay.
But I hear you when you're talking about, not giving up on that too early though, right? There is so much value in having the owner do it. And so also as a coach, and I'm sure, as soon as you open up that door of like, but we could find someone else to do this, if you open it too early and people are
Yeah,
just nervous, right? They're like nervous to get out and try it and nervous to do it consistently. Like it is very nerve-wracking. But often as you do it more and more, and as you build more pride and confidence in terms of how you can talk about it, and also when you realize that literally it's like going out and
making
making
friends.
more friends. Yeah.
That it's how well do you play in the sandbox? We're
Yeah.
not
No,
going out to
seriously.
sell. That's not what we're trying to accomplish at all. So
Mhm.
once they understand that piece, Bell, that they're not selling, I would
Yeah.
say most franchisees become very comfortable with it. It is a
Yeah.
small percentage, the true introverts, maybe they have anxiety challenges or mental health issues even.
Totally.
Um, but for the most part, even the shyest wallflower, honestly, we can get them out there feeling good. And that's part of their charm as well. And just be you. Like go out and
Totally.
be you and you don't have to try and fake sell anything.
No, no. And I think that again, and I think that's honestly a really great tangible example to kind of finish up our conversation here of how working on the mindset piece and working on the buy-in and um the just the right, I mean, framework, like the frame of mind that you have about some of these things. And again, that's a super great tangible example of framing it in, we're not going out to sell, we're going out to connect and build more connections. Like if that's, and make friends, like if we really frame it that way, I think that's a really great example of how the mindset piece actually has this really, really tangible effect versus always focusing so much on that skill or the spreadsheets or the templates and those kinds of things as well.
Yeah, and just last point here, Bill. So many people think that when they go out, they have to be this big gregarious personality.
Mhm.
You don't. You are not the used car salesperson. You
Yeah.
do not need to do that. Just go out and be you and be kind
Yeah.
and ask questions and be friendly. That's it.
Yeah.
That
It
is
honestly,
90% of the job.
yeah. Well, Brecken, this has been awesome. I think this has been a really good just foundation for kind of rethinking the way we start working with franchisees and just kind of what takes priority as we initially begin a relationship as a field coach, or if you're, franchisor who's doing some of that coaching right now, like just keeping in mind what are the key elements that need to be done before we dive into a lot of the hard skills and the training and development that way, which is still so important. But if we dive in first, we're not in the right headspace to make use of all those skills and training and templates. So thank you so much, Brecken. This has been super awesome.
My pleasure, Belle. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Okay. Well, everyone, I hope you all had a wonderful rest of your week and go be awesome.